Today on Faith Matters, Hospitality Highlight with Jessica Horning. This time, she'll interview Christine Pyle. I'm Seth Weber, and you're listening to Faith Matters, a podcast designed to help you think biblically in matters of the Christian faith and keep you updated on matters of Faith Bible Church.
Thanks so much for listening. My name is Jessica Horning, and I am the Hospitality Highlight Editor in the Living Faith magazine, and I am so delighted to be able to be on this episode today. Last time we were able to talk to Taylor Amundsen about cross-cultural hospitality, and then today we have really a lot in store, and I hope that you enjoy it. We're going to be talking to Christine Pyle and discussing really how the Lord has been working in her life and with her husband and her serving others in their home. So Christine, thank you so much today for meeting with us, to have us in your home and to eat this wonderful meal. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Christine, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your husband, Dean, a little bit about your marriage history and the ways that you occupied your time in the early years and then now.
All right. Well, when I met Dean, I had 2 children already in their teens. So we had a ready-made family when we were married. I was not living for the Lord then, and Dean was not a believer. Dean went into the military, and I kind of became the host mom as I was the oldest. Usually the oldest person there, especially a woman. So we had a lot of military come over, and this was kind of like their home away from home while we were in Montana, Japan, and Southern California, where the Southern California tour was where Dean came to Christ and I rededicated my life. And that was just sweet. By then we had 2 boys. And my 2 oldest were in the military. So we had a church family. We learned what a body is. We loved having people over. We lived in a little 800 square foot, 2-bedroom apartment, and it was nothing to have 40 or 50 people over. We just kind of oozed out into the yard.
Wow.
So we would have, one of the, I think, memories I have is a lot of young mothers don't get invited to people's houses that don't have children. So I had a mother's kid thing at my house, probably about, 30 maybe. And it was something that, I just see people starving for, is community and getting together. The meal is great, but it's all about relationship. Yes. So we lived in Southern California for 6 years, and then we came to Spokane, and we went to a different church for about 3 years, and were invited to FBC in 1997. So we've been there ever since. When God gives you a gift to use, it's something you love to do.
Yes.
So I have always loved to cook in quantity. And before we left California, I was doing maybe 75 to 100 with a birthday party or just a get-together. So
wow.
I love cooking in quantity. I don't have a house to cook in quantity, but, it just works.
I can't even imagine what that would be like. And something I'm kind of wondering, especially now in this day and age with the price of groceries rising, how did you and Dean decide to budget for your hospitality? And was that something you had to think of beforehand for each month, or was it just something that overflowed?
It really was just an overflow. It was you can make meals that are cost effective and still feed a lot of people. And if you do potlucks, which is what we do mostly, everyone contributes to the meal. I usually just make the main course. And it can be, when I make lasagna, I make 8, 9 by 12. So I have them in the freezer to pull out. Or if I make meatloaf, I make 6 meatloaves. Or if I make fried rice, I just did that. I make it for freezer and a meal for someone. And it just is what I do.
Okay.
So, but you can make meals with less meat, just like curry, where it's not just solid meat. We kind of combine old and young when we entertain because we love to see people meet other people. So we do that. But I also love to go up to someone at church that I've never met and sit with them and say, hey, I would love to have you over for a meal. Can we get together and get their phone number? And we just had a couple about a month ago that I actually didn't even know his first name when he came over. I had talked to her, and they came in, and I invited another couple that lived in their area, and I thought they weren't in a growth group, so this would be a great time to introduce them to the other couple and get them, maybe they could connect. And they did connect well, but it was so fun. And then we taught them a game.
I know.
So that
was it hand and foot? Was that the game?
It was.
Yes, it's their famous game, hand and foot. So you'll have to ask Christine about it at church. But yeah, Christine, I was really blessed and encouraged when we were invited over. I thought that I was just going to be coming with my husband and kids to have dinner with you and Dean, and it ended up being a few couples, and that was a really cool time where we got to know a few other families in church that we had never connected with before, and get to know them, play some games, break the ice, and get into deeper conversation. So how did those dinners where you have large groups of people together in one space, how did that come about? You said that you were serving people a lot in different states and over in Japan, but when you became a Christian, did that kind of start a little bit more with people in the church mainly?
Yeah, mainly people in the church, yeah. So we have a clubhouse where we live, so we can actually have 50 to 75 people there. We've done that about 3 or 4 times. I don't worry so much about, okay, you show up and another couple shows up. I might try and get the conversation going a certain way, but I also let that flow where you're going to talk to someone else and make a connection and make a friend and maybe have them over. And it's all about keeping it simple and enjoying people. I love people. That's what God has given me a gift to. Okay, I don't love everybody, but I love.
Well, Christ has loved you greatly, and so he has given you this ability to have more capacity in your heart to be inquisitive of others, wanting to get to know them, make them feel seen and loved. And it's just so evident and it exudes in your personality. So I'm so thankful to have gotten to know you. I just wanted to know if there was someone in your upbringing or maybe in your early adulthood that was really influential in setting the tone for your hospitality.
No, I was actually a single mom having groups of people over. Maybe there wasn't the game theme so much, but just conversation. So
I really admire that because I'm not a single mom, obviously, but even just being a mom in general, like you have a lot on your plate, but you were still willing to have people over and to create that community, even if without that you would have maybe been lacking, but you initiated that. And I think that's a really huge thing with having a hospitable heart, is being an initiator and someone that is inquisitive to get to know people and be that one to reach out.
One of the things I think that's really important, especially for young people to know, is that it's not about your home. It's not about the furniture in your home. It's not about making an impression on someone. It's about loving on them and just enjoying them without worrying, oh, I didn't sweep my kitchen floor. I'll tell you, there's 3 things I go by. My bed's made, the toilet's clean, and there's no dishes in the sink, usually. Those are my 3 things. So
that's pretty simple. It doesn't have a huge to-do list to make it possible for you to host.
And it's just a comfortable place. I want you to come into my home and feel welcomed and loved, that my focus is on you and not on being in the kitchen the whole time. Dean had to really help me with that, because I would be in the kitchen prepping all the food, and I've learned to prep much more before anyone gets here and just enjoy the, and I have toys for little kids. So that's important. You need a box of toys.
Yeah, that's a great way, especially if you're someone that is past the years of having young ones, to just keep this space welcome for people that have different interests.
Right. In the summer, we do backyard book studies, and we have a lot of outside trucks and cars. So we have families. We do a potluck every time we meet. So we change it up, maybe a baked potato bar, maybe a taco bar, hamburgers. So we can have, I think we had about 30 last summer in the backyard, counting the kids. And everybody brings chairs. We set up chairs. We go through a book. Last year, we went through Loving Jesus More by Phil Ryken.
Did you have people prepare beforehand, read a chapter beforehand, or was it all?
Yeah. We read the chapter beforehand, and then we went around. And I think that's really important, too. You need to involve each one. You just don't say, does anybody have anything to say? No. You say, let's go around in a circle. Tell what that chapter showed you, what was meaningful to you, what you maybe didn't know before. And, it has been such a blessing, because people are willing to open up their hearts and say the hard stuff. So that's so good. And this is not just our growth group, it's other people. So we invite our growth group and then other people.
So, Christine, can you share maybe like a snapshot image of maybe an example of how you've hosted in the past few years? Maybe a funny story or a fun one that you could share with us of people in our church that you've hosted and the fun times you've had.
Okay, so we had a pastor at FBC that I really was intimidated by, Paul Funches, and and I don't think I was the only one, but I thought, you know what, I need to have them over. So I invited them over. I connected with Christy. I invited them over. We got the date. It was in November. I had made lasagnas and had garlic bread and salad. I mean, how easy is that? So we had them. We had our meal. He was sitting in the living room, and I had a couple of his kids on my lap. We were reading books, and I said, do you know why I invited you over, Paul? And he said, no, why? And I said, well, because you intimidate me. So I figured I'd have you over. And he just thought that was the craziest thing ever. And how could I be intimidated by him? Well, hello.
He's a tall guy.
Yeah, he's tall, and his face is not a natural smile.
But people, we all love him.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And I mean, now he has some people that tell that someone thinks he's intimidating.
But what a good testimony that if you have someone maybe that you're reluctant to get to know, or maybe someone that you just don't know in general, walk toward them, maybe pursue having them over for dinner, getting to know them more, and you'll be surprised that you end up having a great time.
Fun. Even though sometimes I think, why am I doing this? I'm having all these people over. I never regret it when it's over. I might be tired, but I don't regret it.
Was there maybe a story of a special friendship or relationship that has come out of those times of study or those times of hosting that wouldn't have happened otherwise? Maybe someone who was really impacted by your hospitality?
One of the things I can think of, just one, is there are two sweet ladies in my life that would never have anybody over to their home, who now are incredibly hospitable because they saw that this was just an everyday home and that people just came because we just get together and spend time together. So we've always done some type of, I do book studies with gals, and Dean and I do a book with a couple, and we build those relationships. But to me, it's all, if I'm going to spend time with you doing a book, I want to know your family too, so I'll have you over. where sometimes that doesn't happen, and that's okay too. But for us, we just love to get to know people and
to really know a person, you want to know their people.
Yeah.
So what is your husband like? What are your children like? And how can maybe you wouldn't really know how to speak into someone's life if you didn't really know their dynamic.
Right. Yeah.
So the next question I have would be, have there been any challenges to hosting that you have had over the years? And how has Christ grown you through those challenges or maybe the hard parts of it?
Probably one of the biggest challenges is I have grown kids. I watch 2 of my grandchildren every morning, Monday through Friday, and every afternoon. So I have kid things here. But I think there's all different types of parenting, and sometimes the kids are just kind of out of control. So that's a challenge to help the parents see that the kids need boundaries, or they might hurt themselves, or they might whatever, especially if we have a lot of kids here. Mm-hmm. I certainly don't want to stop having kids over here, so, instead of giving them red Kool-Aid, give them water.
Yeah, you've learned over the years what's a good beverage to offer.
Yeah, do anything that doesn't have color in it.
Or sugar, maybe.
Yeah, maybe hot dogs without ketchup. I don't know.
That's a great one. And on the flip side, I wanted to ask maybe what was the most rewarding part of hospitality for you and Dean over the years?
We have just so many relationships with people that are so beautiful. Young and old, and my age group, and I'm 10 years older than Dean. So, and his age group, and younger, and just the blend of people that come over. And, we can have 2 people over, or we can have 12. Okay, I'm just going to tell you the bloopers. So just so people know, it's not perfect. Like Saturday, I made rice all day because it kept coming out gummy. I could make baseballs with them.
Oh, my goodness.
So I finally went up to Trader Joe's and bought rice that was already cooked.
I love the bloopers. This is what we need to hear, is that it's not always perfect, but it comes together and the people are loving it.
So I had this group, and it was a blend of people that I've never had over before. And Natalie Woodman was here, so Natalie, and I invited people, and then we all sat down, and we had to have a card table because we couldn't fit around the table, I think. So I miscounted, and I didn't have enough food. Well, I never had that happen, but you know what? We just laughed. Andy came in and said, there's really this many. Really? Okay. Well, just cut it now. Okay, people, I don't have enough food for you, but let's make it work.
It's like Jesus feeding the 5,000.
Well, yeah, except it didn't multiply. It just...
No. So what did you do?
Joy and I shared a steak. Well, that's what we did.
That is so
We shared
great.
food. Yeah, it was so much fun. And you know what? The stories we heard that night of people's lives were just so amazing.
So it was worth it, even if there was a blooper. You were like, this is so special that if we had not had this many people over, we would have missed out on all of that.
So we had the clubhouse a couple of years ago, and there was probably 60 people from FPC. All mixed ages. Mm-hmm. Dean was working nights. He didn't go to sleep, I think, because he was a little excited. And so I decided, what can I feed people, this many people, because they were bringing stuff to go with it. So I did chicken thighs, bone in, skin on. Don't ever do that.
Okay.
So,
Good
I mean, you can do it if you pre-cook the chicken thighs. So boil it. I didn't know that, and I should have known that, but I didn't. And Dean was barbecuing them, and he'd bring them in, and we'd put them in, and then people started eating them, and they were raw.
Oh, no.
So it was a big blooper. So we put them in the microwave, and people ate them after they were done, but everybody handled it real well. But Dean said, we're never, ever, ever having bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs again.
Okay.
So, which I have had, but I make sure they're cooked first. So it's
yes.
Okay, so you know what? People need to know you're real. They need to know that not only are we sinners, but we also we have bloopers and we have mistakes and we need to laugh about it. And if we can correct it, we do. And if we can't, we just open up a can of soup or something. I don't know. So.
Use what you have. But today, I mean, the smell of what you made today is already just, I cannot wait to taste it. It's all over the house. This delicious smell. Yeah. This great recipe that's in the kitchen is crock pot Korean beef tacos. So can you tell us a little bit about that, maybe how you started making it and what goes into preparing this dish?
It's super easy. Honestly, you do need a couple roasts. You can get the cheapest meat roast out there or watch for a sale. I buy them and throw them in the freezer when they're cheaper. But it's a crock pot meal, which I love. It all gets put in one. So I trim almost all the fat off because I don't like that. So the most a crock pot can hold is about 7 to 8 pounds of beef. So there's 2 roasts in my crock pot right now, 7-quart crock pot. But
grab a copy of the Living Faith magazine, and this whole recipe will be listed there as well.
The original recipe called for flour tortillas or corn tortillas, and either are good, and it also goes over rice just great as well. And you make a coleslaw. This coleslaw only has seasoned rice vinegar and soy sauce in it, a little salt and pepper. I still like a mayonnaise-based coleslaw with it, so I make 2 different kinds of coleslaw. I warm my flour tortillas in a dry pan, and for the corn tortillas, I put them a little grease in the frying pan and cook them that way. And
when you cook that, are you hoping that the corn tortilla will be crispy or?
A little crispy. Not so crispy that you can't fold it.
Okay.
So you just layer them in your oven with paper towels. And when it's really its own meal. Fruit is great with it. But that's probably what I'd add. There's really not a whole lot you need to add to it because it's so good.
So you add it into the crock pot. It goes for 8 to 10 hours.
Yes.
And then what do you do once the 8 to 10 hours are complete?
You shred it. Put it back in there.
And then put it back in?
Yeah. That's all you do. It's so easy.
And that's a great meal for Sundays because you can start it in the morning, go to church, come back, and then you're probably zapped from church. You can rest a few hours before you host, and then when people come over, it's nice and ready. That's a great recipe, and I'm really excited to try it, and I think that this will be a great one for people to try in the church as well so that they can host maybe a few families over for a dinner.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today. I am encouraged by you, and I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much for listening, Faith Bible Church. Today, I want to encourage you to let your love be genuine, to outdo one another in brotherly affection, and to show hospitality. Catch us next time for another interview highlighting hospitality in our church.